I can hear the words of the late great Donny Hathaway saying, "Take it from me, someday we'll all be free." Peace and love, everybody, and welcome back to another Sunday Hope and Healing session. Focal point for today, we did last week. It didn't really turn out quite like it was planned. The idea was really dealing with the art and science of truly moving on, which ended up just being a little more historical information and some psychological information. You can feel free to revisit that if you so choose. But today, we're focusing on healing to truly move on. We're actually going to get into some healing utilizing a methodology referred to as Transcending the Matrix, which is a holistic based approach to healing that addresses every aspect of a person's being, Okay. Spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, relationally, every aspect of a person's being. Okay. And we're going to get into actual healing regarding that today. Today is March 1st, Sunday, March 1st. We just concluded Black History Month. Shout out to Dr. Carter G. Woodson. And I know that a lot of times, because of who I am and what it is that I'm aiming to be about in the world, a lot of what it is that we do, a lot of what it is that we offer is respective to the whole of humanity, is respective to the reality that we are all one, independent of what our ethnicity may be, what our socioeconomic background, what our religion may be, what our gender may be, our orientation, all of these different things that separate us. The reality is that we're all one. And a lot of my focus is on that fact that we're all one. And so a lot of times I try to bring something that will speak to everybody, that will address everybody on some level. Also, that's a fact. Also, is a fact that I came into this life in this particular skin, in the particular culture that I'm a part of, and I have always been about the business of wanting to support the well-being of my people. Okay, given that there are some very unique and specific struggles that those in the African diaspora have had to deal with and have experienced. And so, again, it's the first of the month. And if you've been around for a little while, you may know that on the first of the month, we've been doing a series, first Sunday of the month, been doing a series on making the most of the life and the body that you've been given. And in a way, we'll still kind of do that today. Today's focal point is healing to truly move on. And I did it in the thumbnail that I created last week, Transcending the Matrix to Free a People. Okay, now whether you fall in the category as a member of the African diaspora or not, feel free to partake in this and to receive what it has to offer. There may be some value in it for you as well. And at the same time, this is something that is specifically dealing with those who specifically can identify culturally in the way in which I do. Okay. Again, coming off of the tail end of Black History Month, having just completed yesterday. All right. And so we're going to get into the healing. If you feel inclined to go back and revisit last week's, I had actually hidden it so that nobody could actually see it, because I didn't really get into what I entitled it. It ended up really just being a little bit more of a historical and psychological perspective on moving on. If you feel inclined to check that out for background, I've made it available again. I just kind of renamed it Curly Conscious King, and everybody else who's here, greetings to you. From my heart to yours, I'm sending a bunch of love in your direction. Okay. All right. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to get into this healing. We're going to go get into this healing. It's going to be in a collective context. It's going to be respective to the collective consciousness. And if there is some direct way in which you can benefit from this, regardless of what your ethnic identity is, I invite you to partake of this as well. Okay. So we're going to start with a prayer, and we're going to go ahead and get into the healing. Okay. So I'm just going to invite everybody to just focus your attention in your heart center, breathing in the light of God's love. And on the exhalation, breathing out the light of God's love. Letting that light of love, light of God's love, actually fill the totality of your being, not just pouring out through your breath, but letting the light of God's love fill your entire beingness. So the love is all that you're breathing in, that pure love and divine light is filling you, infusing the totality of your body, all the cells of your body. And so that pure love and divine light is all that you're breathing in and all that you're breathing out. And from this heart-centered space, this love-centered space, shall we pray. Most High God, you who is the source of all light, all love, all life, all healing, all truth, all power. I know you to be a healer, and through the union that we share, through the power of your pure love, I'm calling forth and demonstrating you as a healer on the behalf of everyone who chooses to align themselves with this healing at this time. And you may feel free to do so by stating your name either silently or out loud right now. For the purpose of neutralizing the causal root of all being stuck in our historical past and the traumas and the pains and the experiences of oppression and being bound and all the ways that those may manifest themselves from the point of the causal root in the entire energy field of every strand of DNA in every cell of our respective bodies, every string particle of our existence, and transmuting that into and replacing it with a reality and lived experience of truly moving on, of truly being free, of truly being free, of truly being liberated, of being able to be fully self-expressed, joyfully, in our full joy and in our full freedom of self-expression. And I bear witness to our wholeness on this date and in this time and space called now. Thank you. Thank you for this gift of your divine love. It is done. It is done. It is done. All right. So I'm going to look at, I'm going to look at the dealing with the effects of systemic oppression. I want to neutralize the effects of systemic oppression from the point of the causal root. Okay, I'm going to go back in time in terms of ancestral lineage. And cumulative trauma, cumulative brainwashing. I'm going to address cumulative brainwashing attached to systems of so-called power that have the person of the African diaspora feeling physically and psychologically beat up. Neutralize that from the point of the causal root, inviting the light of God's love into the places and spaces within our physical body temple, within the cellular memory, within the Akashic record. Okay. Transmuting that into love and light, and a sense of victory from overcoming. Not even victory over an external enemy, but victory over that which has sought to see ourselves as less than the greatness in which we are. And that has had us holding on to trauma, including psychic trauma, connected to the North Atlantic slave trade, the Middle Passage, psychic trauma attached to being stripped of language, religion, culture, way of life, and freedom. Also, anger, deep anger, both internalized anger and anger towards a perceived external enemy. Okay, and transmuting it into a state of truly overcoming. Not that we shall overcome someday, but that we're choosing this day to be overcomers. To come over all of the trials and tribulations that have historically sought to set us back. And to be able to still draw on the strength of overcoming the hardship, overcoming the things that were perhaps designed to hold us back, to limit us, to restrict us. And to, through it, to have developed strength of spiritual muscles, intestinal fortitude. Deeply refined character, and to be able to maintain a pure heart, to be able to maintain a truly pure heart. All right. I want to actually take a moment to from a historical perspective, I dealt with a couple things, but let's actually look at anger regarding revisionist history. History is, look at the word history, it's his story. The version of history that we get is based on who is telling the story. The version of history that we learn about, that we hear, is generally based on the story that whoever won the battle is telling. All right. So we want to be able to maintain a clear sense of what stories we tell, what stories we hear, and being able to utilize the stories in a way that we find personally and collectively empowering, authentically empowering, and take responsibility for knowing our own past so that we won't be destined to repeat the ill effects of our past. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Something else I want to get into right now is giving our power away to people who want to claim our power and use it against us. So we're going to call back our power and call back soul fragments that we've given away. But before those soul fragments come all the way back to us, cleansed and purified through the light of God's love, so that they're not coming back tainted, but they're coming back whole, clean, pure, and pristine. So when we look at any psychological brokenness tied to having to sell ourselves out in a way just to try to survive. Okay. I remember years and years and years ago watching Roots. It came out in the late 70s, somewhere between 77 and 79. I don't recall what year. Written by Alex Haley. And I remember Kunta Kinte, played by what's his name? He also played James Evans on Good Times. If somebody knows the answer, can call his name out. Please stick it in there. There was a point where he tried to run away, and then he was caught and brought back. He was put in a situation where he wasn't able to run again. But like, I remember having the thought, if he allowed himself to have run regardless of the circumstances, and even been taken, John Amos, thank you, Suni Maria, and Cass Hill, thank you both for John Amos. Yeah, John Amos was playing Kunta Kinte, and he tried to run away and ended up being brought back and had some consequences. But I remember thinking years and years ago, what would have happened if he just allowed himself to have been killed? And then the future generations didn't end up coming up in slavery. Right? I remember thinking about that years and years and years ago. And so something I want to kind of deal with. Yes, LeVar Burton played the younger Kunta Kinte, but it was, and maybe it was that person that I was thinking about, because I remember LeVar Burton playing Kunta Kinte and being beaten and stuff. And John Amos played the older Kunta Kinte. And so I guess, thank you for that, that kind of correction, if you will, because that's probably the point in history that, in the life of Kunta Kinte, as portrayed in Roots, that I probably had that thought about before we saw John Amos come on the scene as an elder Kunta Kinte. Hey, here's a fun trivia question. Who played Kunta Kinte's mother? I'll give you a clue. This person was a vegan. I don't know if that's much of a clue for anybody. But anyway, bonus points for anybody who can state who played the mother of Kunta Kinte. Double bonus points if you can do it without using Google. All right, but let's get into within ourselves any anger or animosity that we may have towards our ancestors for making decisions that we thought that we would have made differently, or that we may have preferred for them to have made differently. Okay. Deep forgiveness for our ancestors who we might subconsciously believe allowed themselves to be oppressed. No, it was not Oprah. Oprah was too young. Yes, Cicely Tyson. Cicely Tyson played Kunta Kinte's mother. I remember the scene where she was pushing and giving birth. But I tell you another scene that I remember that was so powerful. When on the he had been alive for a week. He had been born a week prior to that. And the father had been praying on what his name would be. And so he went out on a dark night with the sky filled with a blanket of stars and held up this newborn child. And for the first time spoke his name and said, Kunta Kinte, behold, the only thing greater than yourself. I love that. I thought that was so beautiful. To hold your child up, speaking that child's name for the first time, holding your child up to the universe itself and saying, behold, the only thing greater than yourself is the hope. I love it. I love it. So let's actually strengthen within us the sense of self-efficacy and the sense of self-worth, where we recognize that there is no person greater than we ourselves. Likewise, there's no person whom we are greater than. Makes me think of the poem Desiderata. For whatever reason, although it actually says, essentially be humble because there will always be people greater and lesser than yourself. But in a very real sense, in another very true sense, there's no one loved more than you, and there's no one loved less than you. There's no one more worthy of freedom of full self-expression than you. There's no one more worthy of love than you, and no one less worthy of any of that either. So let's, in terms of redefining our sense of self-worth from what we have or what has been withheld from us, and base our sense of self-worth on our ultimate spiritual identity. As children of the Most High, made of the same stuff that God is made of. That there's stardust in our DNA. Yes. Yeah, Cass said she loved that part too. And to really be able to value, resonate with, and fully appreciate our place and our space within the greater plan of life itself. Okay. And simultaneously be able to recognize that every other soul on the planet has their space and their place in the greater picture of life itself. And that things are not as they seem. Okay. To be able to look at those who have fallen in the category of the oppressor. And to be able to see them beyond their oppressive ways. To actually be able to see them beyond their human masks. But see how they're playing their role in a bigger earth drama. But not just in a bigger earth drama. As partners in a spiritual game that we've come to play. Of entering a world so full of illusion, so full of things that seem so intensely real. But to be able to see in the midst of the illusion, to be able to see the truth, transcendent of the illusion. That's what transcending the matrix is about. Being able to step into the matrix and see that none of it is as it seems, and to therefore have power over it and all of the things that would keep you bound and limited in it. And to truly be free. Okay. All right, so something I want to look at right now. I want to look at our contribution to the negative programming, our contribution to our own lack of a sense of freedom. And deep, deep, deep self-forgiveness for the ways that we've kept ourselves bound. Deep self-forgiveness for the ways that we've kept ourselves bound. Some of that has been through the stories that we've told. Some of that has been through the thoughts that we've held. Some of it has been through our own attachment to the drama. Okay. Just free us from the attachment to the drama. Free us from the attachment to the pain. Free us from the attachment to the anger and the attachment to the righteous indignation. That's a thing. To be able to transcend and transmute that sense of righteous indignation to true righteousness. True righteousness dealing with the right use of our mind. To be able to use our minds in such a way as to be able to craft a reality, where we are free and where everybody else is free too. Where we are free and everybody else is free too. You see, for the oppressed to exist as oppressed, the oppressed needs an oppressor to continue that story. For the oppressor to continue the story of being an oppressor, they need the oppressed. But it goes both ways, right? And so we can't just choose to stop playing that particular game. So let's strengthen us in terms of our resolve of playing a different game. A game that doesn't require all of the inhumanity. That doesn't require a victim. Okay. That doesn't require a villain. So let's strengthen us in terms of laying down the need to have a villain. I remember learning in school that all stories have a conflict. And the conflict is either person against a person or a person against people or people against other people. Person or people against nature, or that person against themselves. The conflict is an internal conflict. Okay. All right. Now, the reality is that all conflict starts internally. So let's deal with the resolution of conflict, where we don't have to actually have an external external influence that we have to fight against. That we can develop the internal resolve to overcome, the enemy within, the aspect within our own consciousness that wants to keep us bound, that sense of separate self. Okay. All right. And let's look at the aspect of our consciousness that is afraid of letting our own ego down. And when I say ego, I'm not saying that it's something that we need to judge or anything. Just that part of us that endeavors to edge God. That part of us that needs to maintain that sense of separate self. Okay. And part of the thing that comes with that, need to maintain that sense of separate self is the need to see someone as less than and someone as more than. Okay. Rather than seeing us all as one. And everybody reflecting an aspect of our own consciousness. Now that takes some spiritual maturity to be able to look at somebody like a DJT and ask yourself, what aspect of my consciousness does this person represent? Okay. And then to be able to reconcile that within your own beingness. Even overcoming the resistance to the idea that someone that you can look at in a certain way actually reflects an aspect of your consciousness. Okay. And so to be able to overcome the resistance to our own growth. I want to strengthen us to be able to overcome the resistance to our own growth. To overcome the resistance to our own freedom. By the way, growth and freedom go hand in hand. There is no freedom that comes without growth. Okay. All right. Now let's deal with, for a moment, let's deal with this thing about giving our power away in the context of expecting somebody else to make the right decisions, expecting somebody else to make the right choices. Because what happens if they never make the healthy or the right choice? Are we going to allow ourselves to be subject to the ramifications of that? Or are we going to dwell in a space within our beingness where, independent of what choices someone else might make, whether they ever wake up and do the right thing or not, to where we'll still be free? Okay. Now, let's look at, I want to also strengthen our love response, so that when things come up, things that we might see in the news or any other form of media where we might get information, where we might historically get triggered by things that we might see. And then instead of having that fear response, that anxiety response, that response that negatively impacts our nervous system, that we're able to have a love response. A love response for ourselves. Bringing love into the space whenever something comes up that might trigger us, that we bring love into the space where into the space where we're actually being triggered. Okay. Okay. All right. So regardless of what form of media you're tapped into, what form of media may be of your choice, perhaps on some level it's intended to um, impact your emotional state, okay, to make you feel a certain way. Okay. I'm going to strengthen us in terms of taking back our power to be the determiner of our own emotional state rather than allowing it to be manipulated externally. Okay. And let's look at our attraction to the distraction. Look at our attraction to the distraction, and to be able to then observe the distraction without being distracted by it. I want to strengthen us to be able to observe the distraction without actually being distracted by it. Okay. Okay. Now let's actually strengthen our focus. Strengthen our focus on the deeper truth. On the deeper truth. Strengthen our focus to remain deeply aligned to our spiritual journey and our spiritual ascension. When we're able to have a laser-like focus on our spiritual ascension, and whereas there might be all kinds of things that might be thrown our way to knock us off our center, to knock us off our path, to distract us, to lay claim to our attention, that we're giving infinite attention to our spiritual ascension. And strengthen us all for that. And so in that process, we're being very diligent and vigilant about what it is that we're allowing to come into our hearts, what we're allowing to occupy our heart space, how we're allowing our emotional state to be impacted. We're very diligent about what we give our energy, attention, and consciousness to, because where consciousness goes, energy flows. And so really master the art of manifesting our spiritual growth, manifesting our ascension. Okay. Not manifesting what we're afraid of. Not manifesting grounds for justifying our negative feelings about a situation, but manifesting our spiritual ascension, manifesting our ultimate liberation, manifesting our true salvation. Okay. All right. Apparently my stomach is really wanting to participate in this conversation because it's very talkative right now. They can say, feed me, put something up in here. Okay. All right. So let's look at, okay. Let's look at what we feed our minds. Okay. Lord Jesus said that we should not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. And so, not only that, but we feed ourselves, we feed our minds based on the things that we allow to enter into our gates. Largely our eye gates and our ear gate, also the mouth gate. Okay. So being intentional about the things that we watch, being intentional about the things that we listen to, being intentional about even the things that we put in our mouths. Okay. Because all of it ultimately is just information. So being intentional about the information that we're putting in, that we're taking in the information that's actually going to support our spiritual transformation. Actually taking in things that are going to be of a more high vibrational frequency nature. Okay. I'm not saying this like never eat a piece of junk food again. I'm just saying where we're intentional about what it is that we're putting into our bodies. We're intentional about what it is that we're looking at and listening to. All right. And actually, with respect to all of those things, what we put in what we allow to enter into our gates are really on some level a matter of self-love or withholding that self-love. So strengthen us in terms of our self-love, a deep and abiding self-love, an unconditional self-love. Or even when we stumble, even when we fall, we get back up again. Okay. Even if we have a setback, we get up, brush ourselves off, and keep on moving on. And even if we have moments where we give way to the ego, we get up, forgive ourselves, and continue to move forward. All right. So let's look at our attitude about forgiveness. We want to heal our attitude about forgiveness, to be open to receive forgiveness. Being open to receive forgiveness. So what has us not open to receive forgiveness? One of the things that has us not open to receive forgiveness is because we believe that we deserve to be punished. And sometimes we believe that we deserve to be punished because we believe somebody else deserves to be punished. And we don't want to be hypocrites. Okay. So when we have the belief that somebody else deserves to be punished, and we might even believe that we're the ones that need to be the ones punishing them, or even if we're not the ones who believe we need to be the ones punishing them, we might have thoughts in our heart where we want them to be punished or we want them to suffer in some way. And that creates a sense of cognitive dissonance because we can't believe that about somebody else without feeling like it would be hypocritical not wanting that to happen for us. And so want to actually resolve that internal cognitive dissonance. Transmute it with true spiritual integrity. And being able to allow our hearts and our minds to rise to a point where we want true forgiveness for everybody else too. We want true forgiveness for everybody else too. But what about the person that hasn't requested forgiveness? What about the person who doesn't think they've done anything wrong? To want true forgiveness to be experienced in the lives of all souls. And thereby accepting it as a reality for ourselves. Including forgiving ourselves for the parts of ourselves that doesn't want other people to be forgiven. Forgiving the parts of ourselves that wants to see other people suffer. Forgiving the parts of ourselves that would rather be right than be at peace. Forgiving that part of ourselves. And accepting our own lower nature as our own lower nature. And forgiving ourselves for the times that we've given in to our own lower nature. Loving that part of ourselves. Because it was operating in a level of brokenness. And doing the best that it could or the best that it knew how at that point in time. And so, strengthening within us our vibratory alignment with being forgiven and being forgiving. Okay. All right. I want to strengthen us in terms of our spiritual alignment, to realizing, to getting to a point of spiritual clarity where we recognize there is nothing to forgive. That's when you're at a place of true forgiveness. When you actually truly, genuinely ascend to a point of recognizing that grace is sufficient. It's sufficient for you. It's sufficient for that so-called other. Okay. All right, now let's look at, now we're going to go and deal with some future generations that come after us. Actually, let's start with our own generation, others in our own generation. Bringing deep, 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 deep healing there. Because we're frequently influenced by our peers. Let's actually become the influencer of the consciousness of our peers, to be able to operate in a greater state of true divine alignment. Okay. All right. And then now let's go generations after us. 23 generations is what's coming up. So we want to infuse the next 23 generations with a sense of spiritual identity. And where they can still have historical knowledge and to be able to put it in a proper context and to be able to have a sense of self-efficacy based on the infusion of strong moral character within their DNA, of profound resilience within their DNA, of purity of character within their DNA. Yeah, spend a little more time on the purity of character within their DNA. All right. Part of the purity of character deals with being able to look at the illusion, not be in denial about the illusion, to see it for what it is, and to be able to rise above it. Okay. All right. So to be able to actually efficiently and effectively master each of the stages of grief. Okay. Be able to master that period of denial, disbelief, of numbness, to be able to master it. Not get good at being in a state of disbelief or numbness, mastering it in terms of overcoming it. Okay. To be able to really delve into the pain and the guilt and transcend it. Totally transcend it. Overcome it. Not run from it, but truly overcome it. The anger. To be able to truly transcend it. The bargaining. To be able to truly transcend it. The blaming others. To be able to truly transcend it. The depression. To truly transcend that. Okay. To be able to reflect, but to be able to reflect from a state of a non-attached observer. Okay. Being able to appreciate what happened in the past and the impact of what happened in the past, and simultaneously to be able to do so as a non-attached observer, full of compassion and grace. Okay. To be able to master really making that switch from like taking that upward turn to where those intense emotions subside, and to be able to get to a place of true rebuilding, of true acceptance. Of truly not only seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, but experience ourselves as being in the light. And to be able to be in the light while still in the earth realm, and strengthen us for that. And to decalcify our spiritual eye, to be able to see the light of God's love in everything. To really be able to see beyond the illusion. And to be able to live it like a lucid dream from a place of divine awareness. Roll, roll, roll your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Of Course in Miracles teaches that all of this stuff that we're experiencing is a function of a dream. Much of it a nightmare. And as we grow spiritually, it goes from a bad dream to a good dream. And as we continue to grow, and as we truly ascend, it then moves from a good dream to no dream at all. Because God, I thank you so much for the healing. Thank you for bringing us to a state of overcoming the bad dream, truly being free. Allowing the dream to become a good dream, and even beyond that, totally waking from the dream and dwelling in a state of divine enlightenment, of true spiritual ascension. Thank you, God. I bear witness to this. It's a new reality within our lives. Thank you so much for this gift, for this blessing, and for all the blessings that you so lovingly and generously bestow upon. We are open to receive. We are receiving. We are receiving now. We are receiving the fullness of the blessings of enlightenment. Thank you, God. Amen. All right, beloved. That wraps us up for today. I've enjoyed this time together. Have you enjoyed this time together today? I know that I am appreciative of the healing that's taken place as expressed in that closing prayer just now. If you would like to continue to vibrate in this frequency of love, to vibrate in this frequency of healing, if you want to learn the secrets of how to manifest it for yourself, we've got a Transcending the Matrix class coming up next month. Wow, it's next month already. April 10th through the 12th. It's going to be on Zoom, so no matter where you are in the world, you'll be able to participate. If you're interested in it, send us a direct message on Facebook at Royce Fletcher Thomason or on Instagram at Royce Fletcher Thomason. If you do not hear back from me within 24 hours, please send another message. I get a lot of messages and I miss a lot of stuff. So please just reach out again if you don't hear back from me within 24 hours. If you're not already following us on the Matrix Healing YouTube channel, Matrix Healing, one word, I certainly encourage you to do so. All we do is put out content that is designed to bring about healing, to bring about hope, to bring about a sense of well-being, to spread a consciousness of love and blessing on planet Earth, and to increase the vibration of goodness and peace on the planet for all of us. That's what I'm about. Anyway, until we meet again, as we continue to endeavor into, I'm glad that you enjoyed the healing today, Kay. As we continue to enter into the sustainable state of supreme satisfaction, until we meet again, I bid you adieu with peace and love. I'll catch you next time.